Perfect. All right, welcome to MathBUZZ. What is our purpose? Our purpose is, of course, right, to support teachers. That's what the curriculum department is about, by providing the latest and greatest, in this case, Engage New York-based information. So MathBUZZ this year is on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. There won't be quite as many MathBUZZes this year because we have a new member of our curriculum department, the awesome Christy Wagner, who is going to be doing an ELA buzz during the year too. So we've kind of decided to switch back and forth weeks. I've got a schedule a little bit later in the presentation that I'll show you, so you can plan on what sessions you want to be to all throughout the year. Again, I've been saying this a couple of times to those of you who've been waiting, but make sure you check in, type your name and your school in the chat box. And you are welcome to comment at any time in the chat box. That's what makes these great, is that we have all of you experts out there who can answer questions and help each other too on a kind of a grade level basis. All right, we are going to start with Weber School District math news. A lot has happened since our last MathBUZZ, and a lot has happened over the summer. And I am just kind of thrilled to share that with you. So number one, materials. Materials are all I have done for the last week, and I hope you personally have all of the materials that you need in your classroom. If not, there is a process for letting me know. It just needs to be done through official means so that, number one, I can track it, because there is a lot of information flying around right now through email and things. And two, so your principal knows what's going on. So if you or anyone you know are missing math materials, would you please let your principal know? Your principal has a spreadsheet that they have editing rights to, that they report these missing materials on, and that I'm able to order them in a really quick way. So just remind them that, hey, I'm missing this, and can you put it in the district spreadsheet? And I will try to get that to you as soon as possible. Things that were in there as of this morning, we had our first order go out to the publisher, and they're going to try to turn that around really quickly. And so hopefully those will be here by Monday. So that will be awesome. However, if your materials are not in the spreadsheet, I won't be putting in another order until tomorrow afternoon, and it just kind of delays things. So make sure that you let your principal know and that your principal puts it in the district spreadsheet. Okay, digital resources. I always try to keep things on the elementary math site really updated. And over this summer, there's been a ton of work done. So make sure that you know our new URL. It's shortened and easier to remember, thank goodness. So it's just WSD, so weberschooldistrict.net/elementary math. Under your grade level at the top, you will find lots and lots of new things. Our teacher fellows, who I'm going to talk with you about in a little bit more depth here in just a minute, have been really busy over the summer creating great stuff for you. So make sure that you check out especially the lesson and pacing guide, that you check out the essential learning target draft that's on there. The top 3 or 4 things are in each menu are all new and ready to go. Also on the front page of the elementary math website, there is a calendar and a list of all of the elementary professional learning opportunities that are coming up throughout the year. They're already scheduled all the way through the end of the school year, and it includes both math and ELA. So you can see how we've kind of coordinated that and made that available to you. So that's one place to find that calendar and document, is on the front of the elementary math website. The next thing, like I mentioned just a second ago, I want to make sure you know about our teacher fellows. So there have been between 4 and 5 teachers from each grade level throughout our district who've been chosen to be what we're calling teacher fellows. There are teacher fellows in both math and ELA. These teacher or curriculum fellows will facilitate district-wide professional learning on curriculum and on content-specific tech integration. That's a really important piece as our district starts to move one-to-one in the next couple of years. There's a huge collaboration happening with the tech department. Curriculum fellows will be supporting technology that's specific to ELA, math, and science, and anything elementary. And your ed tech coach, which you should have one in your building, at least one in your building, your ed tech coach is going to be supporting all of the general tools. So right now, mostly the Google Suite and Canvas if you're interested in using that. So your ed tech coach is who you go to for that. Curriculum fellows are going to be helping with things like Zern and a product called Go Formative, and a couple of things that we'll be introducing to you during our professional learning sessions coming up during the school year. Like I said, there's 4 to 5 per grade level. I get a lot of questions, or I've had a lot of questions on how these fellows are selected. It's based on principal recommendation, first of all. Then there's the assessment data that we've looked at for each of these teachers. And in most cases, we've been able to do some classroom observations and know that these awesome leaders for this year have it together in all of those areas, and they're awesome teachers that we can all learn from through these professional learning sessions this year. They're also highly trained. They'll be meeting, they've met all through the summer, and they'll continue meeting with the curriculum department throughout the school year to make sure that they know exactly what's going on here at the district and what they can be sharing with you. So if you're interested in even knowing more about this group, or maybe even becoming a teacher fellow in the future, like I mentioned, this group is flexible and will change from year to year. You can see this URL down here. It's just wsd.net/teacher fellows. All right, I'm just checking our chat box. I don't see any questions. Like I said, if you have questions or comments, make sure to type those there in the chat box, and I can address those right now. All right, other math news, we've got this upcoming professional learning. It's happening most weeks at 3 o'clock. We kind of thought, you know, if you just had one time and day to remember and knew, okay, it's Wednesday, it's 3 o'clock, what is there being offered? That would make it really easy to attend. So that's our approach for right now. It's either going to be online at that time, kind of in this format, or face-to-face, just depending on the week. A little bit more about that. There's 3 formats, sorry, for these professional developments. I mentioned 2 of them. The meetups, which are face-to-face, the BUZZ sessions, which you're in right now, and our district professional learning days. So these are going to be conference style this year. It looks like that text wrapped kind of funny. Sorry about that. So both of our district professional learning days this year, you'll be learning about ELA and math content. So that should be hopefully lots and lots of professional development for the year. I'm going to flip through these next couple of slides. This is the big message, right? Wednesdays at 3 o'clock, find out what's happening. There's lots of great stuff planned. This is what the calendar looks like. Right now it's on the front of the elementary math website. You can see that today's August 22nd, and it's our first MathBUZZ. Next week on Wednesday at 3 o'clock is the first math meetup. So I encourage you to plan to attend, to go to that. There's 2 locations throughout the district. These are face-to-face meetings where you will be meeting with specifically teachers who teach your grade level, and a teacher fellow will be presenting some information there and facilitating some discussion. So like I said, I really encourage you to go out to this. We've been planning for it all summer, and our teacher fellows are so excited. All right, let's talk problem sets, right? Problem sets were the topic for the day. I had the opportunity this summer to go to an Engage New York conference in Denver and kind of check it out and see what information our district might need. And this was one of the big takeaways I had from that conference. And I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you because it really changed my view on Engage New York lessons and how I would attack them as a teacher and what portions of them I can use. So the first piece of information is that problem sets were created first. When the creators were put together to create Engage New York for the state of New York, they sat down and they wrote the problem sets first. All of the other materials in the program came after that, and they were added in to specifically support the problem sets. So you can kind of think of the problem sets as the core of the program, but not the core in time, basically, but the core in design. And what these writers of Engage New York talked to us about at the conference was that the problem sets are basically a ladder. So as you're looking at a lesson and deciding what to teach, you should look at the problem set first because it is, again, the basis of the lesson. And you need to find the ladder within the problem set. Now what that means is that within each problem set, there are 3 types of problems. There are problems that provide a lot of support, so a lot of scaffolding, right? That's kind of the first rung on the ladder. Then there are problems that provide some support. So a little bit of the scaffolding is removed, right? They provide some support. And then there are other problems that provide little support or are intended to be enrichment. So last year, I know as I looked through some of you at these lessons and answered questions from teachers, they would say, you know, I taught this whole lesson, we got to the problem set, and this question was on there we hadn't even gone over. It was like beyond the lesson. Well, that was intentional from the writers. They wanted to make sure that within each problem set, they had this ladder. So I'm sure if you think back about the problem sets that you taught last year, you can kind of see how that works. The other thing that I learned about problem sets is they are supposed to take no more than 10 minutes. The creators of the program were really, really specific about this. And this was a mind shift for me. Just because I think traditionally, independent work, which the problem set is supposed to be, probably took more than 10 minutes. So a possible previous mindset about math, teacher mindset might be this: I do direct teaching, right, so that students can complete their independent work, and then I assess that independent work. I know when I was a student in almost all of my math classes, this is how it worked, right? The teacher taught, they gave us some examples, then they said, do it on your own. I did some practice, and then I turned it in. Okay, this is very different than the mindset of the creators of Engage New York. They have this future-ready mindset, right? That kids, and we've heard this over and over, don't need to be regurgitators of information. I mean, we have places where we can look up facts and figures, right? What we're trying to instill in our kids is that they can be creative and they can critically think. And to do that and use the Engage New York materials is a little bit of a shift that revolves around the problem sets. So kind of their mindset is that the major time of my lesson is spent on the we do, right? The discussion and working together and the whiteboard work of the application problem and the concept development portions of the lesson. Then the problem set is a quick individual check-in to see how students are doing on the content, right? So it's a formative assessment type of piece. And it is right at that point in the lesson so that I can address misconceptions that come up during the debrief. So this is a switch. The problem set isn't meant to be a whole bunch of individual practice that takes 30 minutes. It's meant to only be a 10-minute check-in on specifically what you chose to teach during the concept development piece. And then it drives that super, super important debrief portion of the lesson. So how do we do this? How do we get the problem set down to 10 minutes, right? Because I know if you tried to go through the entire problem set, it could probably take most of your math time. And I hope that's not what's happening. I hope the we do portions, the whiteboard work, the application problem, the concept development are the center of your lesson. So this is one tactic that was suggested by some of the writers of Engage New York of how they would hone that problem set, okay? Because again, they're wanting teachers to start designing their lesson from that problem set. What they suggested is that you go through the problem set, don't even read through the concept development piece, open the problem set and identify these three types of problems. The must-do problems, okay? So there are problems that everyone in the class must do, right, to meet the objective of the lesson. The could-do problems, which are problems students could do if there's time or if they're ready to work pretty quickly independently. And then the extension problems. These are problems that maybe extend what was taught in the lesson or connect it to an earlier objective or connect it to a geometry or measurement objective, something like that. That would be great if we got there, but it's not necessarily entirely important. They also suggested using this color coding, which I thought was kind of cool. You could pick 3 colors. They happen to pick green, orange, and purple. So as a team, you could possibly sit down, open up, look at the problem set, okay, and say, hey, to get to this objective, right, to meet this essential learning target, these are the problems kids must do, these are the problems kids could do, and these are the extension problems. Then what you do from there is customize your concept development based on the chosen problems in the problem set. If you do it this way, then you're looking at the problem set and you're looking for specific examples in the concept development to make sure you're teaching to the problem set. One thing that I learned as I was going through some of these exercises is that if I did this, things in the concept development portion of the lesson really jumped out at me. In fact, if you go open up to lots of the different of lessons in Engage New York, if you get to the end of the concept development kind of dialogue where it says like student, teacher, and all of the main examples, there's almost always a little sentence that's stuck in there that gives you examples of how to do additional problems. And sometimes those additional problems are the ones that deal with some of the problems on the problem set. And so all of a sudden it became clear to me, you know, they're not asking stuff on the problem set that's not addressed in the concept development. It's just that I didn't notice it because it wasn't fleshed out in the concept development piece as well. So when you get a minute, take a look at a couple of concept developments and you'll see what I mean. At the very end, right before it goes to the problem set in the teacher edition, there's a sentence that usually gives you lots of different other examples. And those examples are chosen for specific reasons to line up with the problem set. So let me give you a really quick example. Let me see what time it is. Oh, good, we've got just a minute. Here is an example. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly what lesson it is. It's lesson 13. I'm sure one of you know. It's about we're going to round 2- and 3-digit numbers to the nearest 10 on the vertical number line. This was in my packet of examples. Sorry, and I'd go back and pull it right out of my book. So I'm sure some of you are familiar with this lesson. I'm going to read a comment really, really quick. Okay. Brent says, so assigning a whole problem set and having it be homework is not a good call. Are the problem items order going from having the most support to the extension? Oh, okay. Or are they mixed order? You know what? I've gone through probably 10 lessons deeply in this way. And from what I've seen, the ladder kind of builds. So I'm going to show you an example, but not always. Sometimes there's some extension pieces mixed in. So here's an example from the lesson. So I'm going to start with a problem set. And I went through based on this objective. I can you see here in this is problem 1A. Can you see how all of this is already typed in for the student? We've got like the number line, the number 30s there, 32, 35, 40, the hash lines. Like there is everything there that student needs to know. They don't have to visualize anything. And it's just saying 32 is about equal to what? So you're either rounding down to 30 or 40. This is a really easy problem because 32 is close to 30. Right, and it's pretty obvious from the visual that you would round down to 30. So to me, that was pretty basic. That was one of those that had a lot of support. Remember, questions either have a lot of support, some support, or little support. B, so this one over here to the right of A, has a lot of support too. It's got most of the numbers already provided, right? It doesn't have 36, the actual number that we're rounding on the number line. But I can see, right, that 36 is closer to 40. This one's a little trickier because 36 is not quite as close to 40 as 32 was to 30. You see like the distance is different. Okay, so all of these on the front page of the problem set, I marked as must-dos. So, right, circled them in green. These are problems I thought, you know what, to meet the objective of the lesson, these are things that you must do. Now, this was the first lesson on this particular concept. So the next question over here, right, I marked as an extension. And the reason was, can you see how this one's asking him to round 405 to the nearest 10? So I've either got to round down to 400 or up to 410. A couple of tricky things here. 405 is the midpoint, so I have to know whether I round the midpoint up or down. Right, and I'm rounding down to the century to 400, and sometimes that throws kids. So I thought there was 2 tricky things in there. So I marked that one as an extension problem. I decided, you know, if I got to it in my concept development to explain those 2 tricky things, then awesome, I'd go ahead and assign it. But if not, it was one we could skip. I also knew that there were a couple lessons coming after this, and I would probably get to it in those lessons and maybe didn't want to confuse kids in the very beginning. Now here's the back of that same worksheet. Back here, it gives me some pictures, right? And then it gives me some numbers with a label. These happen to be all some measurement. And so you can see that the authors are trying to connect some measurement concepts into rounding numbers. To me, these are things that, again, were could-dos. If we got through the basics on the front page of the problem set over here, and I felt like kids really have the rounding part down, then I thought maybe we could go ahead and connect the measurement piece in. Also notice how over here in the number line, this is all of my, excuse me, this is all of my writing. There was no scaffolding. So I knew kids would have to be pretty confident in order to see the picture, see the label, draw the entire number line. And then 3 down here, I also marked as an extension, not just because it was a story problem, because I always like to make sure that I do those ones because they cause that extra thinking, but because it involved a review of some things and it pushed kids a little bit further. Any questions about how you might do that within a problem set to start designing a lesson? Okay, if you have a question, go ahead and type it in the chat box. I'd be glad to come back to it. I'm going to back up a couple of slides and show you this. Another idea that the creators had was that once you kind of get to know kids and you've been practicing a skill a couple of times, you could go ahead and assign different students different colors. So if I know I have a group who, we've been on this skill for several days and they still aren't quite getting it, they're only going to be able to get through the green problems. So I say, okay, everyone in class pull out your three color pencils. You're going to circle 1, 3, 5, and 8. Those are all green. Go. Okay. Then problems 2, 4, and 6 are going to be orange. Everyone circle 2, 4, and 6 orange. Okay. And then purple, everyone circle problems 9 and 10 purple. Then as I walked around the room and I saw kids and I was pretty aware of who was going to struggle, who was going to take longer, who needed an extension, I could say, hey, your assignment today is to do the green problems. Your assignment today is to do the green and orange problems. Or to another student, hey, I know that you already know the green problems, so why don't you just work on the purple problems today? That would be a great extension for you. A couple of teachers I was actually working with at the workshop said that for some of their lessons, they had already copied the problem sets and things off for the kids, or they had gone through the book and just as they walked by, they would either circle the problem, put a star by it, or put a smiley face by it if you didn't want to use color. But the teacher would physically just bend down and do those couple of problems or smiley face them, and that would mean the same thing as the color. So you didn't have to do the color pencils, but kids still knew, okay, I'm doing all the problems with a smiley face today. That's my assignment, so that every child within 10 minutes could accomplish what they were assigned. Okay, Brent, the mid-module and end-of-module assessments, I'm going to do a whole MathBUZZ on these. They do not have a ladder. In fact, that was one of my main questions to ask the designers when I got there is what in the world do these mid-module and end-of-module assessments, what are they supposed to mean? Because I was a bit confused. They are actually supposed to be extension. Okay, extension's the wrong word. They're supposed to be tasks. They're supposed to be opportunities for kids to apply their learning. They are not meant to be graded traditional tests like we would think of tests in the regular sense. So as I explained how we were using them, they said, no, they're not written tests that the kids sit down and do, right? They're these application tasks to stretch their thinking and see how they can apply, not to test their knowledge. So they felt like the problem sets and the exit tickets were the formative assessment pieces, and the mid-module and end of module are these application tasks. It's unfortunate that they named them assessments because they're not traditional assessments, how we would think of them. If you look on the elementary math site, a lot of the grades have substituted the mid-module and end-of-module assessments with topic quizzes from Embark. Unfortunately, Brent, the Embark 6th grade topic quizzes are not back up, and the writer of those has not given me an ETA yet, so I am going to actually go through and write some of those, at least for the first couple of modules. So that was a long answer to a really big question, and like I said, I'll do a whole MathBUZZ on that. The good news is that the homework does have a ladder in it, just like the problem sets. So the problem sets were written first, and then the homework sets were written right after that. So they actually, in most cases, should mirror each other. So if problem set question 1A is a must do, usually on the homework, question 1A is also a very, very similar must do that would have a lot of scaffolding in it. So it would be really easy to also assign kids homework or extra practice by kind of using these same methods, by the color coding or the little symbols to let them know which ones they needed to continue to practice on their own. Okay. Let's see, there is some 6th grade homework out there. I haven't posted it to our site or talked about it a whole bunch because it wasn't created by Engage New York. But anyway, I'll do some more talking and maybe send an email on that one. But let's go ahead and kind of move on. I think that was our end of our topic for today. I'm going to continue talking next time about the concept development piece and how you can take the problem set, and if you've done a big dive into it like we've just talked about, how you can use that to drive the rest of the development of your lesson. So our MathBUZZ will be on that, so plan to join us for that. This slide has an error. It's not a MathBUZZ next Wednesday, it's a math meetup. You will get more information in your email about the location, but it's Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Also, a challenge to you is to build your collaborative team. So take this back to your team. Talk about the problem sets and how to find the ladder and what that might mean to your either assigning of problem sets or how to build your lesson. And then let's celebrate. Please share a success either with me or a teammate or someone that you've had already this year. I know there's so many amazing things happening in our schools. It's been so fun the last couple of days just to walk the halls and feel the energy. Such a great time. Kind of my inspirational thing I'd like to share with you to wrap this up today. Something I gathered this summer from a speaker named Anthony Kim, and he said that as educators, we have to plan for change and not for perfection. So lots of times before we dive in and do something, we want it to be perfect, or we want it to be planned out for the whole year, or we want to be able to run the copies for the entire year and never change again. But my challenge to you, I guess, and inspiration to you is like, let's plan to change and improve and not try to set up a system that can just stay and we don't have to work at it anymore. So plan for change and not perfection. Thank you again. I hope that these are really useful for you. If you have a question or if you have a request for a MathBUZZ or a professional learning session, please let me know. We'd love to know. And I will see you guys next week out at the math meetups. Have a great afternoon.